this evening brings us the June full moon. And because strawberries are the first fruit after rhubarb to ripen in late spring and early summer, and the peak season, some might call it the more natural season, for picking strawberries is June. The traditional moniker for the June moon is strawberry moon. There is another name that we could assign to tonight's full moon, Minimoon. That's because this month's full moon will be the smallest in 2017. We're all, of course, familiar with the branding of supermoon, when the full moon coincides, or very nearly so, with perigee, that point in the moon's orbit when it is closest to Earth. On such occasions, the moon appears somewhat larger than normal because of its closeness to Earth. Well, tonight's, June the 9th, moon is the opposite of that circumstance, a full moon that nearly coincides with apogee, the moon's farthest point from Earth, in the very strictest sense. When you look at the moon on Friday, it will not be at its farthest point from Earth. That moment actually occurred on Thursday, June the 8th, at 6:30 p.m. EDT, 2230 GMT, when the moon was 252,526 miles, 406,401 kilometers, from Earth. The moment of full moon comes 14 hours and 40 minutes later, at 9:10 a.m. EDT, 1310 GMT, on Friday morning. For what it's worth, the moon will have moved 81 miles, 131 kilometers, closer to Earth, compared with the actual moment of apogee the previous evening, and when the moon officially turns full, it will not even be visible at that time across the contiguous United States, since it will have already set some hours before. Indeed, when you gaze up at the moon tonight it will not be full but 99.5% of full, a waning gibbous moon, because the moon is practically at its apogee point. It is also moving slowest in its orbit. And the defect of illumination, that is, the apparent change in reflected sunlight on the moon's disk, changes more slowly than normal. How to photograph the moon, astrophotography tips. In fact, the moon will be at least 98% illuminated on 4 consecutive evenings, June the 7th, 8, 9 and 10. So from Wednesday through Saturday of this week, a casual observer who is not looking carefully at the moon would probably say that it looked full, since the defect of illumination is so slight. In contrast, when the full moon is near perigee, the change is more evident. Within 24 hours of full phase, even a casual observer would note the moon appearing slightly out of roundness. Incidentally, our friends at spaceweather.com prefer to call a moon that coincides with apogee a micromoon. From personal preference, I prefer minimoon. The prefix micro is defined as extremely small, whereas mini denotes a miniature version. I think mini serves this purpose better than micro. But one thing to remember, unless you know in advance that the moon is either farther or closer than average, you really won't notice the change in size all that much, often said to be